don't do what's happening here in Chicago tonight, which is to infer from individual and despicable acts of violence a case for implicit totalitarianism in the American system.
Mr. Vidal.
I should say that the issue was, of course, go after the bad cops. There are good cops as well as bad, but there's a more important issue here, a constitutional issue, and it's going to be repeated across the country. We have the right, according to our Constitution, of freedom of assembly. And if you want to hold a meeting for a peaceful purpose to demonstrate, you have that right. The right was abrogated by Mayor Daley, by his administration, by the Cook County Sheriff Joseph Woods. These people came here with no desire other that anybody's ever been able to prove than to hold peaceful demonstrations.
I can prove it.
How can you prove it?
Very easily. By reciting the recorded words of Mr. Hayden of the SDS, of Mr. Rennie Davis of the Coordinating Committee, whose object has been to, quote, break down the false and deceptive institutions of bourgeois democracy, sufficient to set in a revolutionary order. Anybody who believes that these characters are interested in the democratic process is deluding himself. I was 14 windows above that gang last night. These sweet little girls in their Sunday dresses that we heard described a moment ago, and the chant between 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock this morning from 4 to 5,000 voices was sheer utter obscenity directed at the president, at the United States, at the mayor of this city, plus the intermittent refrain, ho ho ho, Ho Chi Minh, the NLF is sure to win. This is their way of accosting American society concerning their brothers, their sisters, their uncles, their fathers who are being shot at by an enemy which wrongly or rightly we are fighting. I say it is remarkable there was as much restraint shown as was shown, for instance, last night by cops who were out there for 17 hours without inflicting a single wound on a single person, even though that kind of disgusting stuff is being thrown at them and all of American society.
Let's let Mr. Vidal have a chance.
The right of assembly is in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's not absolute. Nothing on earth is absolute. We live in a relativist world.
Good for you.
However, it is the law, it is the Constitution, and let us have no more sly comments.
Sly.
In your capacity as the enemy of the people. By the way, you got an invitation this afternoon I haven't passed on to you, from Norman Mailer, our mutual friend, who was out there as I was on Monday night. And he said, you tell Buckley to come out here. He might be very interested to see how his beloved police are behaving.
I was there.
Though you said you were on the 15th floor, I don't believe you were there. And furthermore, when you start quoting Tom Hayden and the other leaders of the New Left who were involved in this, I suggest you get the quotes right. They are talking about revolution, they're not talking about bloody civil war as you would indicate.
Yeah.
Well, until you get the exact proof, you're
all you do is violate
fabricate
the law, you see, and leave it to somebody else.
It is no violation of the law to freely demonstrate.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The law is not something you make up.
It's something in the Constitution that you cannot interpret.
Well.
They came here for free assembly. They came here to demonstrate against the Vietnam War, which you happen to love, and I'm sorry for that.
Yes, but
they have not been allowed to hold a meeting in Soldier Field in which they should have had, could have had, would have had a peaceful demonstration. Instead, the police, fired by Mayor Daley and a lot of jingos around here, have been roughing up everybody from the press to the delegates to the kids out there. And you are to sit here by and talk about law and order.
I'm going to talk to you about what the Supreme Court says, including Oliver Wendell Holmes, whom presumably you also despise. An extension of that piece of common sense shows the wisdom and correctness of the federal court and the Supreme Court in the past to say that you cannot arrange a demonstration in such a way as to interfere with other people's freedoms. They weren't given a license to demonstrate.
At that particular moment, however, when they were in the parks on Monday night, when I observed them, I watched the police come in like this from all directions standing. They were sitting there singing folk songs. There were none of the obscenities that your ear alone seems to have picked up. They were absolutely well behaved. Then suddenly the police began. You would see one little stirring up in one corner. Then you would suddenly see a bunch of them coming in with their nightclubs. And may I say, without their badges, which is illegal.
Mr. Vidal, wasn't it a provocative act to try to raise a Viet Cong flag in the park in the film we just saw? Wouldn't that invite raising a Nazi flag in World War II? Would have had similar consequences.
You must realize what some of the political issues are here.
You see what I
mean? People in the United States happen to believe that the United States policy is wrong in Vietnam, and that the Viet Cong are correct in wanting to organize their country in their own way politically. This happens to pretty much be the opinion of Western Europe. If it is a novelty in Chicago, that is too bad. But I assume that the point of American democracy is that you can express any point of view you want. Shut up a minute.
No, I won't. Some people were pro-Nazi and they were well treated by people who ostracized them. And I'm for ostracizing people who egg on other people to shoot American Marines and American soldiers. I know you don't care, you don't have
As far as I'm concerned, the only pro or crypto-Nazi I can think of is yourself.
Let's not call names.
Failing that, I wouldn't
As far as
say
I'm concerned, the only problem crypto-Nazi, crypto-Nazi.
Now listen, you creep. Now listen, you creep. Stop calling me a crypto-Nazi.
Let's stop calling names.
Or I'll sock you in your goddamn face and you'll stay plastered.
Oh, Bill.
Gentlemen,
Let
let's...
the author of Myra Breckenridge go back to his pornography and stop making any illusions of Nazism to
beg
somebody
of you.
who was in the infantry of the last war.
You were not in the
And fought
infantry.
Nazis,
No,
I
you were not.
wasn't.
Now you're distorting your own military record.
Mr. Vidal.
What happened in Sharon?
Mr. Vidal.
Wasn't it a provocative act to pull down an American flag and put up a Viet Cong flag? Even if you disagree with what the United States is doing, it is not a provocative act. You have every right in this country to take any position you want, because we are guaranteed free speech. We've just listened to a rather grotesque example of it